Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to revisit a brewery that I only introduced you to a couple of months back actually, but I was very impressed with the last beer that I had from them, and you know, it was also a recommendation from one of you guys that is watching the channel as well, so do keep these kind of recommendations coming. And when I saw this beer was being released in the sort of small and local assortments in April, I thought, you know, I really have to have a go at this one. So for this review we are going to return to Eskilstuna and have a look at another beer from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri. This one is the Death Metal Påskeöl, which comes in at 9.9%, and this is a triple apparently, so it should be very nice. This brewery I know are very good for their dark beers, but I've also heard very good things about their Belgian style beers as well, so here's hoping this is another one that is as good as the Double La Bomba that I reviewed for you before. So very much looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri before. No doubt there will be some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Möllys Kvarterbryggeri then. So the Möllys Kvarterbryggeri, as I mentioned to you earlier, are based in Eskilstuna, and they were founded back in 2015 by Daniel Herdigen, who is actually half German and half Swedish, but apparently his father's German family can trace their brewing roots back to the 18th century, and they come from Erlangen, which is just a little bit outside of Nuremberg, and of course Daniel has spent a lot of time there in his youth, but when he was born his family were living in Sweden. So he started off home brewing and he soon expanded to a 500 litre brew kit, and he produced around 25,000 litres of beer in 2018 with about 40 different types or sorts of beer in total. But in early 2018 they also produced a beer for Messiah Markolin's 50th birthday, which was called Doom Warrior. Of course, you know, Messiah Markolin is part of the, or was part of the band Candlemass. I absolutely love those guys. But they've also produced another special beer called Tompi, which was for a friend who he attended a lot of metal festivals with. This friend's child was suffering from cancer, and this beer was produced to kind of sort of commemorate, if you like, his fight against cancer and things like that. But Daniel's brother Björn makes all of the artwork for the bottles and things like that as well, so this is why they have this very distinctive style of artwork too. But in particular, I had a little look through Systembolaget earlier. They do have a variety of different styles. You get normal IPAs and pale ales and stuff like that, you get black IPAs, some stouts and porters and stuff, and you also get a few different Belgian styles of beer as well. So a brewery that have built a fairly good reputation for themselves, and they're also quite experimental in trying a lot of different varieties of the style as well. So yeah, really cool to review another beer from these guys for you here on the channel, and hopefully it is as good as the Double La Bomba was. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Möllys Kvarterbryggeri just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things like that as well. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So yeah, one thing I did mention in my last video as well is that I guess the formal name, you could say, of this brewery is Möllys Kvarterbryggeri. So I'm not sure whether exactly how I'll name this video. I'll probably just I'll check what the last video was. I think I did actually put down Möllys Brewery for that, but yeah, the name of this video might change a little bit. We'll keep an eye on that. But as you can see, the artwork is very kind of similar to the last one I had there. You can see the almost the Viking owl, as I would like to call him. We should call him Fred or something like that. And there you can see the death metal sacrifice altar, which is pretty cool. It says on the side here, Death Metal is an Easter beer in the Belgian style, and we like to call this one an Easter Tripel. They say this one has been something with death metal since 1988. So yeah, big metal. Obviously Daniel is a big metalhead, a little bit like me, but a plain bottle cap on this one, and as I said, 9.9% ABV, and it says on the side, best before the 1st of April 2021. So yeah, it should be quite nice. It recommends that you serve this one around 8 degrees, and I'm guessing this one will be around 7 or 8 degrees at the moment. So without further ado, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. We can get rid of the brewery notes for the next part of this video. Yeah, I do like it how they do these beers in the little Belgian stubby bottles. Actually, I do quite like that. But yeah, this is actually a hell of a lot darker than you would normally get from a Tripel beer. Actually, normally a Tripel, of course, is more along the lines of being very bright and very golden. So that's the first interesting point about this beer, is that the appearance is quite interesting. You know, this one, a colour of this one would make me think it's more like a quadrupel or a double or something like that, or even a very strong Belgian Bruin. But you know, the colour isn't the most important thing. It's all about the exact flavours that you get from the beer. But in terms of the colour, I would say that I think it's fair to describe this one as being quite, you know, mahogany. I think it's definitely a nice mahogany, almost maybe a little touch chestnutty, a sort of mahogany chestnutty colour that we're getting out of this beer. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the top of the beer as well. You can see the head of this one's just faded away to be a very, very thin foamy layer. But yeah, no, it looks like a very, very nice beer, but just not exactly what you would expect from a Belgian Tripel in terms of its appearance. You know, a Belgian Tripel, like I said, normally these would be very light and very kind of golden. Of course, you know, you think of the Westmalle Tripel or the La Trappe Tripel from Brauerei Königshofen or something like that, but this one is a hell of a lot darker than a lot of Tripels that you're going to come across. But yeah, I mean, regardless, it looks very nice, and some of the aromas that are coming out of this one look very nice as well. But let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely smells like a Belgian beer. You know, you've got that nice big doughy, bready, yeasty sort of thing in there. But of course, you've got those brown sugars mixing in with it. It's a little bit kind of caramelly. You've got a little bit of an almost wafery biscuit quality coming out of this one. You've also got a little bit of a kind of toasty brown sugar note to this as well. It's a very light, quite sweet brown sugar rather than being a little bit more kind of treacly and molasses type, I would say. So yeah, you definitely get that out of this beer. Yeah, I do like how everything is going together in the aroma of this one. But as I say, it's quite an unusual aroma for a Tripel. It's got the nice kind of brown sugary notes, a little bit of the bready, doughy, yeasty kind of thing, a little bit toasty, a little bit biscuity, but you've also got a nice little bit of hoppy quality to this one. You can pick up there's a sort of slightly earthy, herbal quality to the hops in here. It's a little bit grassy and very slightly floral as well. On the fruity side of things, you know, on the fruity side of things with this beer, you can really pick up, it's got a little bit of a kind of peary, appley type ester to it. There's a little bit of a red fruity note to it as well. It's got a little bit of a kind of, how would you say, not like strawberry jam, something like that. It's almost like a kind of candied strawberry or sultana type quality to it. It's not quite sharp enough to be raisins. It's more of a kind of sultana quality, a kind of dried grapey aroma coming out of this one. So orchard fruits, a little bit of a figgy note, a little bit of a kind of sultana type quality to the beer as well. So, you know, overall, the aroma to this one is quite interesting. Very, very different from any other Tripel that I've come across before, actually. And this one, as I say, the main thing that's surprising about this, if they're marketing it as a Tripel, it's very, very dark, actually. But let's take a taste of this one and just see how we get on then. So this one is the Death Metal Påskeöl from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri in Eskilstuna, a little bit out to the west of Stockholm here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Yeah. it's quite interesting. What I'm going to say about this beer straight away is that in terms of its flavour profile, to me this one isn't a trip ale. It's definitely a Belgian beer, it's definitely a Belgian ale, but it's not a trip ale. The main thing, you know, the main thing is we can talk about putting beer into style brackets and things like this all the time, and that, to me, it doesn't particularly matter. The main question about any craft beer should be, is it a nice beer? And again, this is another nice beer from these guys, but I really don't get the decision to market this one as a trip ale. It's not a trip ale in my mind. But the question is, if the question is whether it's a nice beer, it is. You know, we'll try and think about this a little bit as we go through it and see, you know, what kind of style bracket it could fit into a little bit more. But I don't know how you can market this one as a trip ale. That's my one thing. Yeah, I mean, this one kind of comes along the lines more of a kind of strong Belgian ale, a strong brown Belgian ale. And you do get breweries kind of producing this, but in terms, you know, if you think of the trip ales or the quadruple, you think of them as being abbey beers. And this one, it's just completely different from any kind of trip ale that I've come across before. Granted, it is in the right range of alcohol content, which is maybe behind the decision that they've made. But I mean, I would just call this an Easter Belgian ale or something like that. I would just call it an Easter Belgian strong ale, something like that. I really don't think it's right to call this beer a trip ale. Yeah, I do like how this one goes together actually. It is a nice beer. Let's move away from the style thing just now and just focus on how this beer actually comes across. So in the middle of your palate then, on the malty side of things, you can feel there is a little touch of a kind of grainy element that just blankets the middle of your palate there. This beer, the middle of your palate does dry out a little bit and you get this almost kind of grainy quality to the beer in there, which is quite nice actually. It's quite an unusual quirk, if you like, to a Belgian style beer. On top of that though, you start to get some of you start to get the bigger doughy, bready, yeasty notes which you would expect from a Belgian yeast strain. I quite like how that goes together actually. But yeah, you've got these nice doughy, bready, yeasty qualities coming out of this beer. This beer almost has a little tiny bit of a slightly chocolatey flavour to it, which is kind of interesting. It's got a little bit of a very kind of well-fired bread crust type quality. If you think about one of these German brown bread, the fresh bread rolls that you can get, a lot of the flavour that I'm getting in the middle of the palate here is quite like a really well-fired bread crust actually. That's what this one really reminds me of. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting beer. This there's a lot of interesting elements going on in the flavour with this one. But yeah, some nice roasty, bread crusty flavours to this one. In the centre of your palate, you do get a little touch of a slightly sweeter caramel. It's got a very kind of thick, almost treacly brown sugar note to it, but it's not too sweet. It's just sitting right in the centre of your palate and covering the alcohol quite a bit. But I'm finding the middle of the palate in this one does dry out quite a bit. A lot of the kind of roastier, toastier elements of the malt base in this one are drying out the centre of the palate, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I do like how this beer goes together. It's just really not what you would expect from a Belgian trip ale, if anything. But yeah, the way it works out is really quite nice. On the hoppy side of things, in the back corners of the palate, you've got a good little earthy presence to this one. I do wonder if there's maybe a little touch of English hop in here, to be honest with you. And I know that Belgian beer, sometimes they would use English hops or English varieties grown in Belgium, but there is a good little touch of earthiness in the back corners of the palate there. And as you come further forward, you can feel that the beer the hoppy side of things turns to be a little bit herbal, and then towards the front corners of the palate, it's a little bit more. It is a little touch more kind of floral and aromatic, but the floral quality on this one is fairly minimal. But then round the very front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and grassy, and of course behind the front curve of the tongue, there's that little oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer, and it's quite nice how this goes together. So on the fruity side of things, to me, it comes across a little bit, this beer, as being kind of, it's almost like a slightly alcoholic cake. It really does have that kind of boozy, fruit cakey element to it, this beer. And again, the dryness in the middle of the palate spreads forward on the tongue here. The fruity side of this beer, is it right to say maybe it's got a kind of datey, sort of figgy type quality to it? It's really like a kind of, it reminds me of these kind of fruit cakes that my gran used to make all the time, actually. It has this sort of drying quality to it. There's a little bit of, again, that sort of sultana flavour that I was talking about in the middle of the palate. There's maybe a little touch of an almost phenolic quality to this as well, that gives you that kind of cough syrupy type flavour, which is interesting. But the further you go into the aftertaste, you get a little bit more of an apple, peary, orchard type ester out of this beer. But that medicinal sort of cough syrupy note to this one is really what's kind of lingering there. There's maybe a little bit of an apricot-y type flavour as well, which is interesting. There's a lot of different fruity elements to this beer. It really tastes a bit like fruit cake. You've got the pears and the apples in there, a little bit of apricot, maybe some kind of datey sultana type flavours as well. But the further you go into the aftertaste, the more the centre of your palate dries out a little bit, and it really starts to lean more towards that well-fired bread crust type flavour. But it's a nice beer, this one. Like I say, the thing that really confuses me about this is why you would mark this as a trip ale. To me, this is a Belgian strong ale, or a Belgian style strong ale. I'm not sure if the Belgians get a bit sensitive if you talk about it being a Belgian strong ale rather than a Belgian style strong ale if it's not brewed there. So I would say it's a Belgian style strong ale, this one, rather than being a trip ale. To me, a trip ale is a little bit more, it leans a little bit more towards the white bready side of things. It's got a good bit more sort of floral quality to the hops. It's a little bit more kind of citrusy and bright. You know, it's a golden ale. The trip ale normally is a golden ale. This one is more of a kind of brown ale sort of thing. So I think this one is a strong Belgian brown ale, if we have to put it into a style category. But like I say, the style category, I think, shouldn't that shouldn't be the main focus. The main focus should be about whether it's a good beer or not. And I like this one. I do. It's a big boozy beast, right enough. It's one of the more well-fired and toasty Belgian beers that I've come across, or Belgian style beers. So, you know, maybe if you put a little bit more sweetness in this, a little bit more brown sugar, you could get a little bit more out of it, I think. But as it stands, it is quite a nice beer. It is this is a kind of dessert beer, I would say. You do want to have this either with a bit of meat, you know, with a nice schnitzel or something like that. It would go well with that. Or you would want to have it with a little bit of a kind of like a sort of caramel based dessert, like caramel sauce, vanilla ice cream, kind of something like that. I think that's what this beer would pair really well with. But the main point is that it's a good beer. I just don't get the idea of marketing this as a trip ale, because it's a brown ale. It's not a blonde ale or a golden ale. But regardless, it is quite a nice beer, this one. And it does, you know, this is a brewery, the Double La Bomba, I'm told, was one of their really outstanding beers. This one I don't think quite hits the same level as that, but it is a really nice beer regardless, actually. So I wouldn't hesitate to drink this again, but I would just say, if you are going to buy this one, just be aware that it's not a trip ale in the traditional sense, if you like. I think that's a good way to kind of sum this one up. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, this beer is pretty full-bodied, I would say. Yeah, pretty full-bodied beer, this. Carbonation is very smooth. The mouthfeel is quite an oily one on this. Like I said, overall this beer does dry out quite a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste with this one. There's a good little bit of hoppy bitterness to it. Maybe you're talking around 40 IBUs with this, although the kind of grainy aspects of the malt base help dry the beer out a little bit more, and that adds a little bit of bitterness. There's a good balance in the malt base between smoothness and sweetness, and you've also got a nice little bit of a juicy fruity quality to this one as well. It's got a bit of a boozy, cakey type quality as well. But you know, overall, it's a really interesting beer, this one, and I'm glad I was able to review it. I do want to try a few more of the beers from Möllys, particularly the Doom Warrior and also the There was another one I was looking at on Systembolaget Lager that looked pretty good, but you will see more reviews from me with this brewery over the next little while, and this one is a really interesting beer. Like I said, the main thing to be aware of with this one is just that it's not actually a triple ale in the kind of traditional sense, if you like, but it's been really cool to review this one. In terms of the alcohol, it does cover the alcohol quite well, but be aware this is a little bit more of a roasty, toasty Belgian beer compared to some of the other ones that you might be used to. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Death Metal Påskeöl from Möllys Brewery in Eskilstuna, just a little bit to the west of Stockholm here in Sweden. A really interesting beer, this one. Definitely not what I was expecting, but it did work out pretty damn nicely, I have to say. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri or Möllys Brewery, however you want to call them. But thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very soon. This is the Death Metal Påskeöl, basically the Death Metal Easter beer at 9.9% from Möllys Brewery in Eskilstuna here in Sweden. Until the next time, it's Landry just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Skål.